I'm sitting there. I was trying to listen to your perspective on your debate with Monkey, and
That's really not a good place to start either to try to get my perspective, especially considering it was like 2v1. They were both being bad faith, and then I was being aggressive because they were being bad faith. And yeah, it wasn't a great debate on either ends. That's why I said the biggest loser of that debate was the audience.
oh, it was a shit show, man. It was a shit show. But I mean, look, you went in with the debate bro mentality, and you got what you wanted, right? At least that's the way I saw it.
I am not really interested in arguing with you about the debate bro thing. I would have to
Yeah.
rewatch
I'm
to
not
see
arguing.
exactly how I came through with it, but it's my understanding that at least at the beginning I was really chill and I was answering his questions, but it became quickly apparent that he was interested in asking what seemed like very bad faith questions, like trying to ask me if I agreed with a side like opinion aspect of a article or something. Like, yeah, I can agree with a conclusion, but not agree fully with like every single thing said in an article.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
So yeah, what's up? Why don't we talk this through? We'll talk this through for a little while.
Well, look, I understand the direction you're coming from with the wanting to destigmatize and make it more apt for people to come forward and get help. But that's easily understandable. I disagree with the perspective to a point, and it's because really it's just more along the lines of what we have seen historically with destigmatization. Sorry, it's I stumble on words here and there. Um, what we see with this is that it becomes more of a mainstream. Uh, it it allows for bad ideas like allowing things like pedophilia to become more of a mainstream acceptable idea, and we're seeing this with things like the movement of the minor attracted people trying to get them included in with the LGBT community, which I think is abhorrent.
I would agree
Um,
with
Only
that
dream of being a
100%. Yeah.
man, half as
yeah,
big as you wonder.
there's certain groups like of gays against groomers and things like that. They obviously don't want to be included with these people, and I think
Well, I would. Okay, so
even entertaining the idea of pedastry being something like a sexual um, what's the word I'm looking for? It's something they can't control.
oh, are you thinking sexual orientation?
Yeah, sexual orientation. Yes, thank you. I apologize.
Yeah, I mean there was a
Long
debate.
day, man.
No, no worries, no worries. I'm fine keeping this chill. In fact, it would almost be
Uh,
preferable here because I think that
yeah,
it.
I
I
prefer that.
honestly think that I could. I genuinely think that you will agree with me by the end of this conversation. I'm gonna hope for that. Okay. So
Well, look,
I under. Well, hold on. Let me
I'm
just respond to
open,
what some of
right?
what you said. So as far as the like maps thing, the minor attracted people, yeah, I if they're trying to get included with the LGBT community, then I would 100% agree with you. They can go fuck themselves. So I want it to be known right away that like you can support my position while also rejecting the notion that there should be some kind of a map group added to the fucking LGBT community. So that's the first thing. I want to make it very clear. They're not mutually exclusive. The second thing is some things have been destigmatized to the point of normalization. You're right. But there are plenty of things that have not. I mean,
Yes, but
just think about like I bring it up all the time, like schizophrenia, for example, or even AIDS. It used to be heavily stigmatized to the point of deterring people from seeking help. Now it's still really stigmatized. The stigma has gone down, but since when are we normalizing AIDS? When are we like, yay, spread AIDS? I do not see, literally cannot fathom in the foreseeable future a world in which suddenly adult relationships with children, which has been demonstrated to be fucking gross and harmful to that child, would somehow become accepted. Like, somebody just not being able to change who they're attracted to doesn't justify them acting on that attraction necessarily.
so we have seen, and so just using AIDS as an example, where we have seen normalization of things such as AIDS, where we've seen where the California legislation has actually decriminalized the intentional spread of AIDS, and
No,
that
that's
is
actually incorrect. What they did there is my understanding that they actually just changed it so that you would still face charges. It would just no longer be under a felony and would instead be under a, I think, misdemeanor.
that's not the way I've read it. And I'll have to go back through that legislation.
I can see. I
But
could
I
be wrong
mean,
too. I'm just. I'll look it up real quick. But go ahead.
yeah, it's just that right there. I thought was damaging to humanity as a whole, because if you're knowingly spreading a disease, which I think we both can admit, even though with modern medical technology and stuff, we have made life more livable with that affliction. It hasn't taken away the lethality of it in the end.
Okay,
I
so let me
think you can
see
agree
here.
with me on that, right?
Um, yeah, that just if it's like not so heavily stigmatized doesn't mean that AIDS is no longer like a really bad thing.
Well, no, AIDS is a really bad thing. Come on, let's be honest. It's a disease
No,
that
I'm
will
I'm
end up
agree. I'm
killing the
yes, I'm
person.
agreeing
Yeah.
with you. I'm
Okay.
sorry if I
Okay.
wasn't clear there. I'm agreeing
Yeah.
with you. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what's really hilarious here
Hmm.
is that you know why this thing was changed here?
What is that?
The exact same reason. Because right now, or previously, excuse me, people who had AIDS and had spread AIDS, I don't even think it was people who just knowingly spread AIDS. It was people who just spread AIDS. They could be punished by 3 to 8 years in prison. Now, the reason for this change is HIV is a public health issue, not a criminal issue. These felonies, which treat HIV differently than all other serious communicable diseases, stigmatize people living with HIV and discourage people from getting tested and into treatment. This is demonstrable now, even with something like AIDS. With the governor's signature today, we are helping to reduce the stigma that keeps some from learning their HIV status and getting into treatment to improve their health. So in this case, because the stigma was the way it was, and if you've like, oh my God, I've had sex with 3 people already and I didn't even know I have AIDS, that deterrent from the seeking of, I should get tested, I want to know for sure, removing that is actually beneficial.
Dream of being a man half as good as you, Hunter.
So like
Okay.
that's the thing is I feel like this almost
So
supports my argument here.
the way I look at the passage of that legislation, what that actually allows for, though, is there are groups of people who are shitty. We can agree on that, right?
Mhm.
Just generally, just shitty people exist in the world, right?
Yes.
There are
I
people
mean, there's a
who
whole
will
Republican
intentionally.
Party. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Go.
man.
I'm kidding. Kid. Go ahead.
The the whole idea of an individual who has AIDS and feels embittered due to their contraction of this and now intentionally spreads this does exist. In fact, there's been several people who was previously prosecuted under that statute, and they even admitted in court that they were angry and they wanted to pass it along to other people. This is generally just a shitty thing that they did, and at that time it was a death sentence.
AIDS, right?
um
You mean AIDS
yeah,
was the
yeah,
yeah.
AIDS. So when you look at things like that, I think we both can agree, yes, shitty people exist, and doing something to quote unquote destigmatize could open the door for these individuals to, without any guilt whatsoever, pass along whatever shitty thing it is that they like to do.
Well, there's a
When we
couple
look
things
at,
here. Is that first of
okay,
all, I feel like you're making a bit of a slippery slope argument, but I'm not going to just like write it off as oh slippery slope argument. That's it. Because I can
well, I'm
also
not trying
understand.
to go down that direction either. I'm coming to you earnestly. I'm not
No, I
trying
know. I can
to
tell, and I
play these
hope that I'm coming
gotcha.
across chill as well. I'm not trying to, quote unquote, debate bro you. But even right here, right, under current California law, it's a felony offense punishable by 3 to 8 years in prison. The new law simply changes this to a misdemeanor, carrying a 6-month prison term, the same punishment as knowingly exposing someone to other communicable diseases. So there's still a punishment. It's just the same punishment as exposing somebody to other diseases as well, which to me is just, this is like just consistent then. Like,
Is
yeah.
there any
Why? I
limiting
don't think you
factors
like
on
if you
what that
knowingly
disease
spread AIDS, you
is?
should
Because
go.
I'm curious about that.
What's that?
Is there any limiting factors, like, is it any communicable disease? See, this is where I'm a little ignorant on just this little subject right here, because it's so niche. but do they have like exceptions, or is it just any communicable disease? Is really the question I would have.
I mean, I'm not sure what would fall
Because
under the other communicable diseases, but I mean, no, HIV is under that umbrella for
okay,
sure.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's not like they're just exempting it or, hey, spread AIDS, have fun, LOL. Like, it's clearly just like, hey, you're not going to go to jail for the rest of your life, possibly. But I mean, if you are knowingly doing this thing, coming forward, a 6-month prison term, I mean, if you really think about like 6 months in prison, like that's still not exactly like a walk in the park. And when this is just more in line with the other penalties for spreading communicable diseases, I'm not sure why that would be such a big thing. But I will say that when people, like when you kind of phrased it like they're just decriminalizing it or just like letting this happen, it's just not true. There's still
well, and look,
punishments for it.
I was just going off of news articles that I've read months ago, and I may misremember. I'm just doing this all. I don't have a bunch of reference stuff up.
No, it's
I
fine.
was really interested. I was interested in the study that you were talking about with the German,
The
the
Duncan Feld one.
German. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, so Monkey mentioned something about without even regardless of the destigmatization that happened, you still saw a 6% increase in actual rise in child molestation in Germany,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's where Monkey, it, good, bad, or indifferent, kind of hit the nail on the head that resounded more with people of a more conservative leaning.
Sure, and I can understand
Okay,
that, but I think that a lot of that
it's
comes from just a entire misunderstanding. So, first of all, there still exists like insane levels of stigma in Germany. Like, I actually cited Germany, and this is something I wish I had clarified before, but I cited Germany as an example of where they have the Dunkenfeld project. I didn't say Germany destigmatized pedophilia, and if I did, then I would have been incorrect. So that's the
yeah,
first thing, is that doesn't actually prove anything. The second thing is that you don't measure things that way. You would have to compare, and this is part of the reason why it's hard to get data on this, is because it would be unethical to compare it to get this kind of a data. Excuse me, bleh, long day for me too.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
To get this kind of data, you'd essentially have to take, say, let's say you have a group of 100 people, right? They're all non-offending pedophiles, and then you take, and they all want treatment. Then you would have to take half of that group and give them treatment, and the other group deprive them of treatment. And then you would have to compare the results afterwards. The
Yeah,
one
'cause you're
group as
talking
compared
about
to the
like
other.
double-blind studies, right?
Partially, yes, but like what I mean is that that's how you would go about figuring out if this is effective. You wouldn't just be like the whole country or state or whatever, like they had an influx, and so
Yeah.
therefore it didn't work. Like there's obviously that I understand that it does intuitively seem correct, so I can get why that does sort of like resonate with people, but that's why my first question was, how many of those people went through the therapy? Like, if you actually had an example that there was a 6% increase in child molestations from individuals who had completed the therapy, then I would say, okay, well, then I'm wrong. I'm walking that back. I'm backtracking now. But that's not what it is. Like, to me, this is kind of like, oh, we destigmatized anxiety to a degree, so now more people are seeking help. Oh, so why is there an uptick in anxiety? Like, hold on, that's just not a fair comparison, you know?
So in the example that you just gave, the idea of like, why is there an uptick in anxiety? Well, it could be the fact that people are more likely to admit the fact that they are experiencing anxiety because maybe the stigma has been lost. So I
Sure,
can
yeah.
I can comprehend the line of logic that you're going down.
And also, mind
It's
you, that
not a,
in Germany, they also talked about how there's been an uptick in reports. People have been reporting more times when they're suspicious of child abuse. So the uptick could very well be simply because they're getting more reports, just the same way as more people talking about having anxiety.
and that's fair. That's fair. I think with these studies, and from what I understand, there was only about what 5,000 subjects that have gone through this therapy, and I'm not 100% like down. I don't understand what the length of time of the therapy sessions were for the therapy to be considered quote unquote complete.
Mm-hmm.
I know, like for myself, so I suffer from PTSD. Um, with association with my military service, you see some things, it kind of sticks with you.
Mm-hmm.
My therapy will never actually be completed. There is no. It's pretty much a lifelong process, and most of your therapeutic prescriptions are going to be just that. It is going to be a lifelong thing because
Mm-hmm.
therapy traditionally is more of coping mechanisms. It's teaching you how to deal with whatever proclivity or anxiety, fear, phobia, whatever that you may have.
And
It's not
there's
going to cure it. It's going
right.
to help you. It's going to help accommodate and help you work better in society.
Right. And so the thing is that, and this is something, this was in hindsight, I think this was probably one of my biggest errors with that debate, is not being more clear about what I
Dream
mean
of
by
being
the
a man
therapy,
half as good
because
as
I
you,
think
Hunter.
that it's it's weird. It's easy to like look at all the ways or all the things that I like should have said right after the fact, but when you're in the middle of like the debate and you got multiple people saying dumb shit, it's hard to like look at it from a bigger picture. But now I look back and I think that I was kind of giving off the perception that I'm talking about like just talk therapy. Like they're going to come in and talk to a therapist and, they'll, hey, you should be nicer, ooh woo. But like, I also mentioned the libido reducing drugs. I should have really gotten more specific with that. We're talking about chemical castration here.
Yeah, Lupron. Even
Yes.
even high doses of SSRIs could work in the same way.
Yes. And
Things
they might
like
even
that.
do
Yes.
both. So the thing is that it's not just them talking to someone. It's that if they kill their libido and reduce their testosterone, then their desire to engage in sex at all is going to be significantly decreased. And then on top of that, you have the conversations with the therapists who train these individuals to prioritize empathy for potential victims, right? And it's that combined that can be effective. But you're right. It's a sad fact. Nobody is going to just nobody's able to just like not be a pedophile. If they are a legitimate diagnosed pedophile, they're not going to be able to just like stop being a pedophile. And so
So
but
uh,
don't you recognize that if they can't stop this thing and if it's not really happening as a choice of their own, that does not by any means mean that it is okay or should be normalized or praised or anything like that. But that literally like common sense wise follows that if they can't change it and they're not choosing it, they should seek help.
well, they should seek help. And I get the point in the direction that you're trying to go, and I'm not going to try to beam you or anything stupid about this. I just there are dangers when you come to destigmatization. Things that become more normalized.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Opens the doors for pushing to more extremes, and that
It
is that
could,
is
but that's what I mean
that,
with the slippery slope thing. Is like,
yes, but
you're
this
right that
is
that could happen, but again, I don't know how you like. I don't know how it would somehow become broadly socially acceptable for adults to rape children. Like, think about what you're saying there. Like,
but we already see movements working towards
you
that.
see
Things as
movements for
NAMBLA.
everything, dude. You see movements
Yeah,
for the
yeah, yeah.
creepiest, weirdest shit. Some of which is still so stigmatized we probably don't even think twice about it. Like I'm guarantee you I can find movements about people saying that they deserve rights because they identify as animals. That doesn't mean that
Yeah.
because of that fringe that I'm now going to be in favor of continuing to stigmatize, say, gay people. Like, that doesn't necessarily follow. And we kind of have to weigh the pros and cons here, right? And I think that the best outcome here would be reduce the stigma enough so that, again, I've said this now like 5 times, but I want to just reiterate that it's a collective understanding among society of 2 things. Is that 1, pedophilia specifically refers to the attraction and not the action. That's the first thing. And 2, society needs to understand this is bad. This is gross. It's creepy. It's immoral, dangerous, whatever you want to call it. Fine. But you need help. That's the problem that's missing right now is the follow-up. You need help. And right now, we treat so many other conditions that people don't choose the same way, like schizophrenia. That's why I bring it up. For a long time, it was stigmatized to the point of, oh, you're schizophrenic. Doesn't that mean you're like a psycho, like Silence of the Lambs, who hears voices and is just out to kill people? Now, we have a better understanding. Okay, schizophrenia is not synonymous with psycho killer. But if somebody said, I have schizophrenia and I hear voices in my head telling me to go run over mailboxes, then you would say, that's disturbing and creepy and could even potentially be dangerous. You need help. It is still stigmatized. It's just been reduced to the point of allowing the window for help. That's it.
And I remember, and I could be wrong, who mentioned this. I believe it was probably Monkey. Started talking about PSAs and things like that, or maybe that was you. There are certain areas, like even here in America, in Puerto Rico, they run PSAs, anti-incest PSAs, because there's a huge problem with incestual rape over there. I don't know. I don't know what it's caused it or anything, but I used to be a hurricane hunter. I used to fly through hurricanes for a living, and when we would go down to St. Croix, we would get a lot of the television stations from Puerto Rico, because it's like a 40-mile trip to the island. So we were able to get the airwaves and stuff, and I was actually appalled that they would have to do PSAs for this. And so I talked to some of the locals. They were saying, yeah, unfortunately, this is a bad habit. This is a bad problem that we see here in the islands because of limited population and things like that. And I'm like, is it really a limited population problem? But hey, I'm not there long enough to know.
That's actually even analogous to like child molestation. And this is again like why I think people have a hard time with this conversation. I don't know where you stand on this, but like it is actually possible for somebody to molest a child and not be an actual pedophile. They might be,
and that's something I did want to converse with you about, because I'm not tracking how you were differentiating between a non-offending pedophile and an actual kitty diddler, and how do you say someone who has had sexual contact with a child not necessarily be a pedophile? So there's probably a communication gap there where we're not seeing the same thing. And that's
sure.
I would rather get that cleared than to just go, you're being an apologist for pedos or anything stupid like that.
Right, which I'm honest to God not trying to do that. I genuinely believe that this is going to result in less child rape, and that's why I'm advocating this. And so
I'm actually I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm open to it. I don't agree with you, Hunter. Okay, but it's I would rather hear your logic out than jump to some strange conclusion that doesn't push the conversation forward. I think,
and I can actually really appreciate that, because this issue in general is like incredibly sensitive, and we also sort of have this idea. It's like the opposite of the destigmatize or stigmatize thing. Instead, it's like you are virtuous if you're talking about how much you want to go shoot pedophiles or something. So the thing is it's not, also, by the way, it's not my logic. It's actually just the FBI's logic, that there are different types of sex offenders. Okay, so there are the type of sex offenders that are abusing children, and they are legitimate pedophiles. They are abusing children because they are attracted to primarily or exclusively prepubescents. Okay, so I know you're with me there, right?
Yeah, I'm tracking.
So that makes sense. Like, and that's another problem too, is why I want these people to get help, is because the child molester, on the other hand, is someone who isn't actually attracted to children, since that's what pedophilia means by definition. He is instead attracted to, or I guess like has the desire to take advantage of power dynamics. And this becomes really clear in the FBI document that I oftentimes will cite, where it explains that oftentimes the child molester, who is not actually a pedophile, so he's not attracted to children, he's taking advantage of children because they're vulnerable and he can exploit that. That type of child molester oftentimes will go on to then molest old people and disabled people too. Because again, they're not attracted to prepubescence. They're attracted to the power dynamic that they can abuse, which is even why I'm fine saying, like, child molesters are fucking sick freaks. I say it all the time, like, put them in the chair, okay? As soon as you touch a kid, like, you are fucking done for, dude. But this is, again, why I go back to the non-offending pedophile, is it is possible to have an attraction to children and not act on that attraction. Just like you have an attraction to women, but you're not going to go rape somebody. Just like I can be attracted to women, but it doesn't mean every single woman I see, I'm going to just, like, give in to some urge to, like, I don't know, have sex with them or something. Like, it's not that cut and dry, I guess. I don't know. I hope I explained that.
Fair. So basically, you're using the sexual attraction as the primary differentiator, right?
I mean, if you want, you could just Google, like,
So-
literally just Google
so-
define pedophilia. It is only the attraction.
Well, okay, so I do need to ask this, and this is because, so what do you call someone who is attracted to a teenager who would be under the age of consent? Because I would just call them a pedophile, and that could just be, I'm using the word wrong, but it is a colloquial definition.
You're right. That is a colloquial thing. The technical definition, it would be a hebephile, actually, where you're attracted to, like, the like half puberty. It's honestly still very fucking gross.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm not even that worried about that. Like, if, colloquial meanings are going to exist, it is what it is. But I mean, if we want to get well, hold on, just sorry, one more thing.
Okay.
If we want to get, like, technical, at least, especially when we're having combos like this, it is true that a pedophile, by definition, is somebody who's attracted to prepubescence. That is the key thing there. And it's disgusting. It's gross. Like, even having these conversations, I'm like, ugh, it's fucking gross that I have to keep talking about
yeah,
this.
dude. This is icky as hell. I'm not, but it's a conversation. It seems that you deemed this important. You went and
That's me.
You went and talked to Monkey about it, and
willing
you
to
know
have
what?
the tough combos.
I'm willing to have these conversations as well, even though I find them disgusting. And yes, the wood chipper meme is appropriate for a lot of it. That's just me.
I would say, you know what? I'll cede you some ground. Although in a very literal and realistic sense, even if you have abused a child, you, besides going to prison for the rest of your life and maybe getting the death sentence, you should also be treated with some kind of a therapy or something. But at that point, the goal is not to make it so that you don't offend or something. It's to just try and make it so that you're not, like, forever this fucking psychopath, disgusting piece of shit. But if you want to go ahead and have the wood chipper meme for, if you say, even if it was like kitty diddlers get the wood chipper, cool. But again, not all pedophiles are actual kitty diddlers, and that's the nuance.
Yeah, there are the people that have not offended. There's also people who have issues with rape fantasies and whatnot that will never actually rape. They understand that there's a moral bad to it, and they would never engage in it.
Mm-hmm.
But they have this desire, this urge, and I mean, they're in my opinion quite freaking sick.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, look, if you're not harming anyone, I don't see too much of the problem.
It's like,
there.
what do you? And that's the other weird thing too. Is it's like, I don't want to get up here and be like, yeah, if you're masturbating, fantasizing about children, it's okay, because it's not okay. That's disgusting.
Not okay. No,
but at the same time, what if you're not actually looking at child porn? What can we do about it? Because there is no way to thought police people.
Well, so with the child porn, it's when you find people who have that, and they have that on their computer, and they're
and I would, by the way,
consider
that person an offending pedophile, mind you.
That is an offending pedophile by all legal standards, because even though they are not the ones actually abusing the children, they are supporting the abuse of the children through the purchase of these forms of media.
Exactly. Yes, so, they are contributing to the market, and that alone is a crime. And it should be.
So with I understand the therapy even for the offending people, and even though I would advocate for those people to never see the light of free air again, just because there's just some things that I just believe are just completely unforgivable.
Mhm.
You talk about these therapies. I guess we need to go into the justice question. Are you a rehabilitative justice person, or are you a punitive justice person?
I am generally in favor of rehabilitative justice, but I've also, whenever I have this conversation, I'm always the first to caveat a bit and say, to an extent, right? There are going to be some people that can only be rehabilitated so far, whereas other criminals, for example, like, I mean, the whole drug war thing, I honestly think the drug stuff, at least addiction, should be treated like a medical issue. But like, if you sell drugs, for example, let's say like you're a big like meth, seller, I don't know, whatever the fuck, right? Like, I think that person, very realistically, could be rehabilitated and then put back into society. But if you're somebody who, say, you're like a sociopath who's murdered people and have no empathy for other human beings, like, I don't know what rehabilitative justice would look like at that point. Maybe it would be life in prison, but maybe the prison in which you are staying is like more humane, ever so slightly.
Okay. So the follow up question to this is, where do you draw the line? What is what type of criminal do you find to be rehabilitative versus non rehabilitative?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I also I've never actually been asked it, so I apologize if I'm not able to give you like a super solid
No,
line.
no,
But
no. So it's one of those things I think that we miss in the debate community because let's be honest, Hunter. When we do these panels, we're talking past each other. We're not talking to each other.
partially,
And this is something that I would like to see change, because I think me and you can disagree on things, and I don't have to sit here and call you names. You really don't have to call me any either.
right?
Now it may give you better ratings, may give you more views and
No,
more
not
clicks
even. If I
as you
believe me, if
dunk
I started
someone.
yelling at you right now, I would look like the asshole. But that's the thing again with the monkey debate is they were not trying to have a conversation with me the way you are. They were intentionally being bad faith, twisting what I was saying and attempting to get a gotcha on me the whole time. And that's part of the
Well,
reason why
I
I
mean,
stumbled during that conversation too.
I mean, you used to, back in your previous conservative days, you've actually conversed with Monkey on a good bit. You've Lords of the Night, I think, is what you were regular on at the time.
It's weird. I really don't remember that much, but yeah, I would definitely jump on a lot of like Google
Yeah, yeah,
Hangouts
yeah.
at the time or whatever.
Yeah, so yeah, and I've been following Monkey for a while, and I've seen you here and there. We've participated on panels, and this is actually the best conversation I've ever had with you.
Right.
It is because we're not trying to talk at each other. We're trying to talk to each other, and I
Hmm.
I think I
And
think this
I
is.
also really can understand where you're coming from because I appreciate I appreciate people like you that are willing to have this conversation because I almost feel like I personally have like a bad reputation as like somebody who's just going to insult everybody. But like when the person is acting in good faith and is genuinely interested in having a conversation, I'm not going to just like start flying off the handle or calling you like an idiot or something. Like you're not being an idiot.
Okay.
You're being genuine and I appreciate that. So,
Here's the deal, and just a critique,
mhm,
a mild critique. Just like, okay, so I have your YouTube up right now. I'm not watching your chat.
okay.
You heavily focused on Monkey's chat. Come on, man, you know better than that. If you and just looking over, I'm seeing that people in the audience, that they're actually enjoying the conversation. I appreciate that, guys. I'm not ignoring you on purpose. It's because there are ways to gaslight creators, and the chat is one of those great ways to do that.
Yeah,
And
that
I,
was a
I believe
mistake.
that's
I shouldn't have
I
had the
believe
chat
that's
up.
what happened to you. Because look, we don't agree, but I think you could have made a more salient argument to maybe not convince them, but to get them to see your point of view. And ultimately, that should be our goal.
Well, the
Uh,
thing is so can I just say really quickly?
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
agree with that actually. Of course, like all debate is to try and be the best you can at delivering your perspective. But the reason that things became the way they were again is because this wasn't like it was exclusively my fault here. It was that
Oh
both
no, I'm not
Monkey
putting it
and his
all on you.
buddy were acting maliciously bad faith. I mean, twisting what I was saying as being like pro pedo or whatever, like even shit like that. Like you even said, like, you're not going to say that because it doesn't seem to be the case, but they're acting in a way that's just malicious and aggressive. And so, yeah, when that happens, the conversation is not going to become suddenly like a, oh, let me just explain my perspective, ooh woo. It's going to become a mudslinging contest, and that's what happened.
Yeah, that's what it turned out to be, and because of your mind space and because of where you were, you came out in a bad way. To be fair, but that's
Yeah,
that's
I
really
might
not.
disagree with you there. I think that there were definitely parts that I didn't look too great in, but I think that by the end of the debate, it was pretty obvious that I had the better position.
Well,
But that could literally just be, me, my arrogance.
now the reason why I think that you lost the engagement, and it's because let's go back to the discussion of where's your line. One of my lines when it comes to rehabilitative justice is the inclusion of children into some form of deviancy and things like that. There's just a line that I will not accept to be crossed.
Right.
And so, from my understandings, and I don't want to put words in Monkey's mouth, but that is where he stands as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's a father, he's a grandfather, and I understand that with you being a new father, that's one of the reasons why he kept asking you, would you allow them to watch your children?
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't a got you. This wasn't an attempt at a gotcha. It was more of a you've got to put on your daddy hat for a moment and think about it from that perspective, because that's the way the majority of people think.
Well, I think that there's a charitable
internalize
way
their
of,
personal.
I think that there's a charitable way of interpreting that question, and then a less charitable way. And I feel like maybe at first it was you were right that it was like just a question, but then like he kept asking me again and again, and was then using it as a gotcha on me. That is literally the case. You can watch the video. Like
I watched it, so I usually when I'm at work, I usually put on random YouTube deals and just listen. And Monkey was one that I chose today.
Okay.
So I listened to it and I was like, wow. Now I understand why it went the direction it did.
Mm-hmm.
And look, you're good at doing this as well. You get an impression of somebody and you go after them. It's part of the shtick.
Mm-hmm.
Fair enough. So that's what Monkey was doing. Okay, and you came in hot.
A lot of people have been saying that. I'm gonna have to rewatch and find that out, because I don't remember coming in super hot, but it's quite possible that I did. Well, the way that at least from my perspective, it was more like I came in like, well, I hadn't watched your video, let's talk about it. But then by the time we were even like 10 to 15 minutes in, at that point, that's when I was starting to get the vibe that I'm like, hold on, he's just like trying to get a gotcha, and also seems to be being obtuse.
Okay.
And it's fair. Along with the bad faith that also makes me mad. Legitimately. Like, it fucking pisses me off when I was trying originally, as I do with all conversations, to be good faith and to legitimately explain my position. But then when the bad faith is happening over and over again, like, I can only take so much bullshit. And that's why, like, even now people might say, like, Hunter, you didn't look too good optically. There comes a time when I'm okay basically saying, fuck the optics. I don't care if you think I look good or not. I'm not going to sit here and just like be rolled around by some bad faith bitches. But that's, again, our perspectives here are different. I think we should try, because I want to log off here soon anyway, but I think we should try to back off of the just the conversation about like me and Monkey or whatever, because it was a shit show. I think that the big thing comes down to, though, is where do you draw the line? I like that a lot. So I guess for me, I'm going to give probably like the worst, most centrist, boring, bland take imaginable. But I genuinely think it probably would come down to the crime. So like,
well, yeah, that's exactly where I'm.
But not just the crime, but I mean like the context in which the crime was committed. So like, if we were going to say, no rehabilitative justice for murderers. Okay, That to me on the surface sounds very easy and good. But then think about like that one person who had killed her her trafficker. She was sex trafficked
Yeah.
from the
She
age of
killed
like
her
9.
abuser.
She
Yeah.
killed her
Yeah.
abuser. It wasn't in self-defense though. She killed her
Uh,
abuser. She attacked him without him provoking. So it was the textbook definition of murder. But in another case too, she was also being threatened by someone else that was saying they were going to kill her and her mother if she didn't kill that guy. So like
so
stuff like that, I'm like, okay, this doesn't seem like someone who is like a psychopath that has no empathy or is like getting off on murdering people. This seems like a fucked up situation where something really bad happened. Yes, it's murder, but I think that in a context like that, she could be rehabilitated.
and so that's fair. So we're talking about maybe partially justifiable homicide. One thing I really loathe about the internet is the hyperbolic takes on everything.
Right.
All murder is this. All this is
Like
that.
throw all
And,
pedophiles in the wood chipper?
yeah. But it's a fun meme, and yes, you harm a children. I think if you harm a child in a sexual manner, I actually believe that you're not able to be rehabilitated.
Sure.
So that's one of my lines.
But I think even that would be contextual, right? Like, what if it was like a child and then a younger child? Like, maybe at that point, they could be rehabilitated. Maybe it was something disgusting that happened, but they're not
so
like attracted to children or maliciously out to abuse kids or something. Like, I feel like even in cases like that, there could be context in which you and I might both be okay being like, okay, that's still fucking disgusting and bad, but like, even within that, there is a line.
So there was just a little backstory in the little shitty neighborhood that I grew up in. Lower middle class. We had a young boy who had a habit of sexually assaulting young girls and even some young boys. And in that case, he was just mimicking behavior that was happening to him. Turns out his father was abusing him, his
Right.
mother was knowing of it, and there was also an uncle involved with it.
Ugh.
Yeah, totally disgusting, right?
So it would be
And
like, I
this,
would want the parents and the uncle to go to the wood chipper, but
yeah,
the
yeah,
kid
yeah,
I
yeah,
could see being
exactly.
rehabilitated.
And the child, maybe we can save.
Right.
So that's the kind of context that I would obviously agree with, where I lose my sense of rationality, and yes, this person has the objective means of rehabilitation is once they become maybe an adult. Okay. And I'm not talking about an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old Romeo and Juliet type situations. I'm talking about no shit. Hey, look, we got an 18-year-old, 12-year-old type person. We're hitting that real sick,
The creepy vibes, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a friend actually several years back, and she told me that she lost her virginity at the age of, I think it was 12 or maybe 13 to an 18-year-old. I'm like, that's fucking gross. And then she even said, like, it wasn't until later on that she realized, like, holy shit, that guy was super creepy.
Yeah. But so there's also some outliers that exist that I know of. There was one guy who I served in the military with. We called him Chester. That's a reference to an old Hustler article, Chester the Molester.
Okay.
And he was a 19-year-old man who was dating a 14-year-old girl with the consent of the parents. And we were like, bro, you need to get away from that. That's disgusting. And we actually tried to get him in trouble, like in legal trouble in the military, because we were just like, this is immoral, and this no servicemen should act this way. It was actually illegal under the UCMJ. But the parents actually defended it. In fact, he moved in with them. He lived under the roof of the girl and her parents.
It's so disgusting.
It is. But
I don't know how a parent could be like, Well, if my 14-year-old is with an 18-year-old, that is literally child with an adult. Like, that's gross.
Yeah. See, I feel the same way, but one of the odd things is young Chester is still married to her to this day, and they've had like 3 kids, and they've become more religious. And I understand you're not a religious person, anything like that.
Well,
But
the whole teen
look,
thing too is weird because it's like at the age of 14 and 18, that's a creepy gap. But if you
yeah,
were
it
like
is.
20 or even 21, and then someone's like
Yeah, 24 and
25, like,
20,
who
we're
cares,
completely
right?
fine with it, right? But there is that mental maturity
Right.
difference that exists, and that's because we understand that. We understand that there is those maturity levels that we see because, well, we've already experienced it where someone at like maybe the age of 16 may not have our same point of view because they don't have the same life experiences to draw from.
Right.
Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, of course. And I think that that's
Okay.
also going to inform whether or not we believe this person could be rehabilitated, which is exactly why, you know what, I'm going to have to wrap this up here shortly.
Yeah.
But I will tell you the story of somebody I knew, kind of as a response to your story there. There was actually a man that I went to church with, and I mean, I knew his children, and we were friends. Like, he was, looking back, I see that he was like a little strange, but like, come on. If you're going to just look at someone and they're strange and then like assume they're a pedophile or a molester, like, that's in and of itself is also kind of bad. But like, I bet I was at that guy's house before. I actually
Yeah.
went to his house to meet with other members of my youth group to talk about the missions trip we were going to go on. And then it later came out that this man was taking naked photos of his 12-year-old daughter, posting them
goodness.
online, and was molesting her as well. He was literally like running his own like child porn thing. Like, it was fucking disgusting. And I'm
Now,
like,
can we agree that he deserves a wood chipper?
yeah, exactly. And I mean, he actually, I could finally, it took forever, but finally the court documents are public. And so I read, and I think he's the age of 60, and he was sentenced to like 60 to 80 years in prison. So I'm like, okay, bye. You're going to fucking die in jail and rot. So who cares? But like, stuff like that is just like, it's so sickening. But then even when I have these conversations, I look back, I'm like, was that guy like a pedophile? Was he attracted to children? Or was he taking advantage of the fact that he was a father and his daughter was vulnerable and he could take advantage of her? And like, that even plays a role because, you know, I make a lot of jokes about like the Catholic Church and molestation and whatever. It's kind of like almost an edgy meme at this point. But like, that's another reason
I make
why
the same jokes about the Catholic Church. So
okay, yeah, so we're on the same page there. But that's also why a lot of the Catholic priests would molest little boys, right? They weren't gay. They weren't attracted to children. But they were in a place in which, at least for a lot of them, because they make the pledge to like not engage in any sex, that causes a level of repression and stress, which, lo and behold, the FBI documents is a form of child molester. The type of individual who is not a pedophile, but under severe stress, they will sometimes revert to abusing children. And it's literally a combination of that and them being able to take advantage of the power dynamics. And like, it's weird because people get yikesed out to differentiate between those, like that kind of a person and just a pedophile, someone who's just attracted, someone who acts on it. Like, they don't want to get into that, but like, by recognizing that alone, that too, I think, could help children. Like, it would benefit children if we recognized the likelihood that someone could abuse them, right, under certain circumstances or in certain contexts. Like, that alone would actually benefit helping children more than just like, you know, you touch a kid, fuck you, you're gonna go into the wood chipper. Like, and that's what I brought up to Monkey too, is when I say like the reduction in stigma, part of what I mean by that is literally just education. People should know, generally speaking, that there is a difference between a pedophile, as in somebody attracted to children, and somebody who molests a child. It doesn't mean that the child molester is not a pedophile, but they should just, I don't like this synonymous use of pedophile with child abuser. Because it's that kind of a thing that is not only incorrect, but it really does hurt people who are pedophiles who have not harmed a child and are disgusted by their desires. It deters them from getting help. Because they're like, well, all of fucking society sees me as a child molester already, even though I've done nothing.
Okay, so let me run this by you and see what you think about this. Maybe the messaging on this may be where the issue is, Hunter. This could be where you're getting a lot of the pushback. Maybe you need to look at incremental steps and maybe trying to get rid of the colloquial use of pedophile. Because honestly, a lot of this boils down to more of a language semantics game.
Right.
Where most people, and look, I even admit it, when I say pedophile, I mean anyone who will mess with children.
Right.
Yada, yada,
there are
yada.
literally videos that I've seen of mine from only like a couple months back, and I've done the same thing.
So maybe right now, the issue that you are engaging in, the issue that you're actually seeing, and maybe you're just too close to it because sometimes we just get wrapped in our own little tunnel vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's the fact of maybe start pushing, start advocating, not to destigmatize. I think that's a bad way to put it. I think we need to deal with the colloquial term use of the term pedophile.
Right.
So we're being more accurate in our language.
Mm-hmm. But there's another follow-up here with this, though, is because I agree with you. You're right. If I said something like, people should understand, but even that is controversial. That's the thing is, if I were to tweet, like, people should understand that not all pedophiles are child abusers, people would freak the fuck out of me. That, too, would cause everybody to get mad. The reason this conversation right here is productive is because we're both sitting here willing to listen to each other. And that's just not something that's very attainable on Twitter. That's another part of the reason why I usually just shit sling on Twitter, and then I save the more, like, in-depth convos, obviously, for like, what I'm doing now. But the last thing I'll say is, the follow-up here is that, so we agree that there's a difference between somebody who is attracted to children, somebody who is attracted to children and then abuses a child, or like the child molester who is abusing kids for reasons outside of they are actually attracted to children. Once you kind of get that down, then it becomes really apparent that if you have a group of people that are not harming kids, that they have the attraction to children, which means they are literal potential offenders, right? Then what is the solution, since we already agreed we can't thought police, other than therapy? They need to get help, but the way the stigma is, I recognize the word stigma, I guess, is really misunderstood, but like, it's that type of stigma that is deterring people from seeking help. And this is what I tried to bring up to Ranting Monkey, but it just, again, it got so fucking convoluted. Again, when somebody is likely, or not likely, but if you have like a non-offending pedophile, they are literally a potential child abuser, right? And then they've been, maybe not deliberately to themselves personally, but societally, generally speaking, they feel almost like, okay, people already see me as the abuser, and I can't get help. And when you get to a point where you literally feel like you have nothing left to lose, that is when it gets so dangerous. Because if you have a person like that who wants help but can't get it, and also wishes that people would understand that it's like, they didn't choose to have this, then that literally just makes it so that they are way more likely to go and offend. If they think I have nothing left to lose, the world already sees me as a child abuser, what's even stopping them from giving into their urge at that point?
Okay, well, that's a fair point, and I think there's a bigger discussion to be had here, and I would love to continue this in a future time whenever you're available.
I would. I
think where we would need to go is we probably do need to try to work on breaking down the difference between the colloquial use of the term of pedophilia, and then we need to dive into the idea of retributive justice versus
retributive or rehabilitative. Excuse me.
Yeah, rehabilitative. So if I think that if you were more concise with the messaging, I think you would probably attract more flies if you would.
The thing is
Uh,
you're right. And my video where I talk about this, I am the same way, although a little bit more aggressive, albeit because I was getting dogpiled at the time. But I was articulating what I'm saying to you pretty much the same way. And you're right, because it was that video that got a lot of positive reaction. But like, you have to understand that, like, even you right here saying, like, yeah, maybe we should work on kind of understanding what like a pedophile is as opposed to a child molester and how they're not necessarily the same. People are going to tune in and say, oh, so you're pro pedo then? So you're okay with it? You just want to like let pedos just, oh, not every child molester is a pedophile, right? LOL. Like, people are going to be bad faith and interpret whatever you say, because when it comes to a subject like pedophilia, people just shut their brain down. They
yeah,
can't like
because
think it through the nuance. It's just, oh my god, wood chipper, and it's like, I get it,
and
because
so
nobody wants to see kids getting abused, but like, that's why I consistently say there's either my approach, which is preemptive, right? It works to stop it before it happens, or there's what's going on right now, which is literally just wood chipper the pedos, child molesters, pedos, they're all the same. Wait until a pedophile or a child molester or whatever the fuck, somebody abuses a child, and then take care of them and give them the retributive justice. But in that case, a child has been abused. I don't want to have to wait for a child to be abused to stop this, because at that point, you haven't stopped it. A child was abused. In my case, you prevent it.
So the idea, and with the studies that from what I understand, I haven't read through them all. You see the patients reporting less ideation of these thoughts and things like that, and that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. The problem that where Monkey, from what I understood, where he was coming from is, yes, they're reporting that they're having less of these thoughts, less of these urges, but do we know if they are not acting on these urges?
Yeah, but this is why I feel like people didn't hear weren't listening to me, because I read what it said, and it wasn't just like, they said they're not doing it, so it's all good. It had been documented. It wasn't like they showed up and said, hey, guess what? I don't really want to abuse anybody anymore, LOL. This was like being witnessed by the doctors.
Okay. So here was the big question that I had about these studies, and feel free to send me the studies.
Let's talk about this for another like 5 minutes or so, and then I need to go to bed.
Yeah. The methodology, I think, is probably what would be more beneficial to talk about when you talk about these studies, because the methodology is going to tell you how they went about these therapeutic sessions, how they measured and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And because, Monkey stated, oh, well, there was a 6% rise in child molestation in Germany during this time period that they are measured. And so the light destigmatization, making it more acceptable to get medical help with this, isn't really showing the benefits as what you're suggesting. So I think the methodology, breaking into that and seeing if that methodology works in your head, because I don't know if you studied that, because a lot of times when we read these studies, what we read is, we'll read the abstract,
right?
We'll read some of the findings, and then we'll hit the conclusion, but we usually skip the methodology.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at this one right here.
Mm-hmm.
And let me see, because this has the methodology right on the abstract. But I'm glad you brought that up, because before I get into this, I also want to address this too, because Monkey posted the study that he apparently thinks is like the biggest own, that said, let's see, hold on, what did it say? All 14 indicators showed weak treatment effects at most. So he was bringing that up. Which is understandable. That sounds like it supports his point, sure. But like, we want to talk about methodology, right? he completely just ignored the fact that there's a huge part right here in the abstract that says strengths and limitations. And it says the current study adds crucial information. Because of the reappraisal has the same limited statistical power as the original study, the current results are tentative in the sense that the possibility of the program being effective cannot be ruled out. And then the conclusion of the study, but hold on, the conclusion of the study isn't even like therapy doesn't work. It's that they emphasize the notion that independent groups should be analyzed based on the treatment and the time that they are within that treatment. It's literally a study concluding that better research needs to be done, and here's how. It's not concluding that therapy doesn't work.
Yeah. And a lot of your academic and especially medical studies, they end up saying, well, we've seen some improvement, but we need more information.
Right.
And that's really what it sounds like it is coming down to. And I appreciate that you mentioned that, but little things like that, man. I know you're trying to get out of here, and look,
okay.
This has been the best discussion I've had with you in my entire time on the
internet.
internet.
Let me read just one more too, because I would definitely, I definitely do need to go to bed. And then there, actually the one Monkey posted, under it, there were recommendations for other studies that were similar. And this one came out only a year earlier. And this one said, a reduction in some but not all assessed risk factors for sexual offending against minors could be seen within the time frame of therapy. Findings are in line with results from a previous evaluation study. So there's more studies, although yes, limited, and they do have their problems. There are more studies that support the claim that therapy indicates a reduction in the likelihood of child abuse than there are studies showing that it doesn't help. Because, I mean, I had this conversation with another guy earlier, but like, even if therapy was absolutely of no benefit, if it's not making things worse, then what do you do? What do you even do? If you have a person that isn't harming a kid but has these unhealthy and dangerous attractions and they want help, literally what do you fucking do at that point? You can't just kill them. Like,
well, no, of course
I don't know, right? It's like
it's a tough question, and one that if you want to dive into at a later date, we can do.
Let's do so. Either way, I really do appreciate this convo, man.
No, man, it's all good. Look, I'm trying to get away from the panels. I'm tired of yelling at retards on the internet. It's more.
I'm surprised because I really thought we were gonna have another screaming match, and I'm really pleasantly surprised to see it happen this way.
I find it hilarious. Like you blocked me on Twitter.
Oh, I did?
A while back during the BX Bullet arc that was going on.
Oh, that would make sense. That can be a conversation for another time because I might start yelling at you then. Yeah.
Well, I was just sniping from the side just because I like to poke things. I wasn't on
no worries
either side. I don't know enough about it. I'm just a shit poster. But I know that when kids get involved, I do get pretty defensive because that's who I am, man. Kids are amazing.
Hey, I'm a dad also, and before I was a dad, it didn't change the fact that I thought stuff like that is fucking abhorrent and disgusting. And I honestly can empathize, or at least understand
where she was coming from, right?
No, not where she was coming from in regards to her accusations against me. No.
Oh, no. See,
her being upset about that picture, yeah, abso-fucking-lutely. Yeah. That was disgusting. But what was annoying me with that, again, another subject for another time, was that she was trying to claim that I, like, knew about this, but then was, like, working with him. Not what happened. Like, I was maybe going to have him on my channel to talk about how he got screwed over. Then I saw that he had the pic, and I saw the clip, and then I said, no, dude, fuck you, and I left.
Yeah, you cut bait. You cut bait at that time, and so the evidence that she brought forward on that with that part of the story, that's where I just kind of glazed over and said, okay, this is just internet drama. I'm moving on.
Right. Yeah.
I try to stay out of the drama, but no, you blocked me on Twitter, and I
I'll
was like,
okay,
well, I guess, and I just kind of went under the, well, I guess that bridge is burned, even though we never really built it. So this was a good opportunity to build that bridge.
I agree. And I think that I honestly feel like I have a lot more respect for you after this convo too. No joke.
Well, and
I'm sorry if that sounds like a backhanded compliment. I don't mean it that way.
No, it is, and it's okay.
I mean, yeah, it is a
Look,
backhanded compliment, but I don't mean any insult by it. But like,
no,
yeah,
no,
I mean,
no.
I blocked you on
I
Twitter.
feel,
I've yelled at you on panels. So yeah, it's kind of, I
yeah,
guess to
yeah,
be
yeah,
expected,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Look. If it wasn't for bad faith, sometimes Hunter would have none at all. That has been a common saying with you. And look, I'm not accusing you of bad faith. This has been a great faith discussion. It has
Mhm.
been a discussion, not a debate. It's been more productive
I agree.
than you yelling at retards on Discord. Um,
Very, very true. Yes, and better for my mental
so
sanity. So
no, it gives me a good outlook on possible future discourse on the internet.
yeah,
Hopefully, people will go, "Oh my God, Sparky is not a complete jackass, and Hunter, for once, is not a complete jackass as
for
well."
once,
Look, if those two can actually have a conversation, maybe there's hope for more level heads.
if Hunter Avallone cannot ad hom, oh my god, no. All right, well, hey, I do have to split. Actually, I just looked, and it turns out my kid is up out of bed, so I got to go up there and take care of him anyway.
Uh,
But thanks
oh
for the
my goodness!
convo,
Well,
man.
you
Really
have a great
appreciate it.
night, yeah,
And
man.
yeah, I'll talk to you later. See ya.
Yeah, take care, bud.